Hi, and welcome to our Google Hangout, Engineering Tomorrow's Engineer. I'm Emily C. Chris, and I'm here with Lauren Miller, Director of Communications for TE's Technology Group. Lauren oversees programs that promote collaboration and innovation for TE's 7,000 plus engineers around the globe. So thank you for joining us, Lauren.
Thanks, Emily.
So let's kick this off right away. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you ended up here.
Sure, I'm happy to. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So just to give you a little bit of my background, I grew up around riding motorcycles, restoring cars, racing cars, doing things like that, which led me to go to engineering school. So I became a mechanical engineer. I went to the University of Pittsburgh. And from that, I always wanted to either, my dream since I was a kid was to either work at General Motors or at NASA. So yeah, two kind of engineering-based things. And I got offers for internships at both when I was in college. And I chose NASA because I thought it'd be cooler to work on a spacecraft to Saturn than work on a wiring harness for like a Pontiac or something.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so I went away for the summer and built a traveling wave tube that's currently on the Cassini spacecraft orbiting Saturn. So that was a fun summer job.
Minor.
Yeah, it's just a minor job. And ended up going to work at NASA. So I worked on the space shuttle program and the space station program for a few years. And that sort of led me to be more on the communication side because I was the one that was in charge of the software interface the astronauts used. And I was in charge of putting together the plan, the procedure that they used in space to run the experiment. And I was sort of like the voice of the experiment team because mostly everybody was introverts. And I'm just like, hey, I'll teach you or I'll do this fun stuff. And so left NASA and went to an aerospace software company and kind of was the one always writing and promoting and out there putting together events and things like that and newsletters. And so kind of quickly got to be head of marketing at that company and was there for 11 years, still in the space industry, but fortunately being able to be creative yet technical too. So I could understand it and I could explain it to a fellow engineer or I could explain it to your grandma.
Yeah.
So it's kind of led me here to TE, right? Yeah. So I can be technical and creative, and I've been here almost 2 years now, having fun.
2 years already?
Yeah, really.
Oh, wow. That's going fast.
Really.
So tell us a little bit about what you've done at TE, what programs you've been working on over this last 2 years.
Sure. So I'm in our corporate technology group, and what we do is we kind of serve all of the business units across TE and try to get the engineers, as our CTO Rob Shattuck says, to join the dots of the engineers, right? So from there, we establish a bunch of different programs and a bunch of different outlets for the engineers to participate in. So it's sort of whatever they like to do or whatever they feel comfortable that gets them out of their shell a little bit.
Yep.
So we have everything from an online portal where they can share and blog and discuss to we have online crowdsourced gaming for ideation. We do robotics competitions, Raspberry Pi, where you're building things with a real computer. We do Ignite presentations, which is a 5-minute, to spark somebody's interest in something. So there's all kind of different things that we do to engage the engineers. And I'll have to say, out of the 7,500 engineers we have around the globe, I know we touch every one of them, and we have a consistent user base of all these programs we're putting out there for them. And they're having fun doing it too.
So tell us, what's your favorite program?
Well, I kind of have, we all are, first of all, right? You don't have a favorite kid, right?
Yeah.
So, but like TechNet, which is our internal engineering portal for our engineers around the world. It comes in every language, so there's no language barrier there either. But they come online and they blog and they chat and they could share their files, and it's a good source of all of these resources and knowledge. Yeah. But so that's a favorite of mine because it's sort of like a baby that we launched a year and a half ago, and it's really important. That's a 24/7 machine. Yeah. But the other one is TechCon, whereas we bring together our engineering community once a year. We bring together this year about 350 during the week, and then some people that are coming for the day in Shanghai. Yeah. And from there, it's like those face-to-face interactions, people that you might chat with online and never met, people that you haven't met, new ideas, and that's where we really break down the barriers of our company and bring them together to talk about everything and anything under the sun, under TE and beyond. So that's coming up soon, so that's why I have the dark cycles.
A little bit of planning there. I know we did a couple of Hangouts live last year.
Yes.
We had a lot of great conversation across industries, which I think, going back to your point, is so important here at TE. We've got these engineers everywhere in all these industries, and the ability for them to communicate openly and to share ideas and to build off of each other is so great.
Yeah, we're excited.
So going from there a little bit into the engineering community as a whole. So can you talk a little bit about what TE is doing as an outreach into the rest of the engineering community?
Yeah, let's back up a little bit first and talk about, like, you know, how we can get kids excited, because that's the future of TE and that's the future of engineering, right? So, you know, we need to teach kids that it's relevant and it's fun. So engineering is in everything, and engineering is cool, right? It's like, for a while there, it was like, you know, an engineer, but now it's like, it's in everything that you want to do. And so basically you can say, like, all right, you're interested in sports. So back in the 70s, NASA helped the NFL develop the football helmets for shock resistance, right? So going back in the 70s, now the NFL has their annual combine where they're picking the best players. They're 3D printing these guys custom cleats, because this 200-pound guy isn't going to run like that 300-pound guy, and he's not the same shape or agility or anything. So there's one thing to show you. They're custom printing swim goggles, snowboard bindings. Then we can get into F1 racing or Formula E racing, which TE is now a part of. So we have 3D printers there in the paddock. So we're like, okay, you want to try out a new part? We can have it within hours now versus weeks. So that's really cool. But you want to talk more about that? Like, what are those vehicles to teach these kids? And you're enabling them through, you know, we have sensors, we have 3D printing. We're trying to miniaturize things for the future, make them smarter. It's about big data analysis. It's all this stuff, whereas, you know, kids start understanding all the background of that and asking the why question, right? So you're a mom, you get the why question yet?
I personally don't get the why yet. She's only about 8 months old. But I get the why from all of the kids around us. And, you know, we were talking a little bit about this, that part of harnessing that curiosity of children is answering that why question. It's so easy to be like, okay, because I said so. But explaining the why and the how and the what is an important part of driving that curiosity and encouraging that curiosity.
Right. So like I said before, you could apply it to sports, you could apply it to gadgets. So they like their cell phone and their camera. Well, an engineer made that camera in their cell phone. The power in your cell phone, you hear this all the time, is more computing power than was the Apollo 11 that went to the moon. Right? That's in the power of your hand. And so here's a question for you, Emily. A gigaflop. Do you know what a gigaflop is?
No.
So a gigaflop is 1 billion floating operating points computed in 1 second, right? So back in the 70s, that cost $33 million for a gigaflop. How much do you think that costs today?
I don't know, a couple hundred.
8 cents.
8 cents.
8 cents. So if you figure that out, computing power is free now. It's basically free. So how do we package all of that stuff? And I mean, cell phones are a good start, but how do we miniaturize that? So we have wearables. You hear all about wearables for your baby or for athletes and for health, you know, people that want to monitor their health. So it's all about that. Then with that comes wireless charging, comes like all these other things. So if you start sort of going down the line, if your kid's interested in agriculture or sustainability or hardware, software, and we talk about, you know, science fiction movies. Well, you know what? There's engineers behind the movies, right? So whatever they're interested in, there is, like, engineering is such a broad topic that you can dive in any of these places, most of which are super fun.
Well, I think even going back to another point you made about 3D printing and how for Formula E we've got it in the paddock. Well, they're cheap enough now. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're cheap enough that a lot of people can have one in the basement. Right. You know, so encouraging your children by, hey, you want to make something? Let's go make it. It's that
this
easy
year's
now.
Christmas present. And then all these little things hang around your house to step on. No, but it's true. We're enabling these minds to think outside these borders. And sure, you know, crayons and paper are great, but then we can give them these tools, and we can give them the software where they can be coding, and we can be doing the coding with, you know, Lego has that too. And then there's other games what's the not the Goldilocks, but
The
what's
ruminate.
the ruminate. So there's ways these kids can start really early, and it's really intuitive to them at that point too. Like they don't need the directions, and they don't need mom and dad. They kind of dive in ahead of you.
I saw the bracelets for girls that they can code to do different things.
Oh,
so,
right,
so teaching a child coding early on too.
The new friendship bracelets.
I coded yours to blink purple today.
Oh, thanks. Where is it?
Maybe later.
Oh, thanks.
So moving on from there, I know we talked a lot about how we get kids, but any other pieces of information for parents or schools or whatnot to encourage that?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple things. It's two attributes you really need to lead. One is their curiosity, like you said, and the other is self-confidence, right?
Yeah.
Set no boundaries, really try to be a mentor, really try to be supportive of what you can see their interests are in, or like you're doing, throw some options out there and see if they're interested or not too. Yeah. And I mean, one of the most important things there, I think, is having a role model, especially if you're a girl, but to find a woman role model. Yeah. And you could find that in the news, right? It could be an astronaut, or it could be, these girls just graduated from Ranger School, right? Yeah. But then even, around you, doctors, teachers, nurses, scientists, people you would know from school or neighborhood or church or what have you. So, I mean, I think that's what's really key. And people like that really want to talk about their career. And that's sort of why I'm here today, too. Like, I really love to encourage young kids, especially girls, to say, there's nothing you can't do. So
I'm sure you have a neighbor who's an engineer who has done amazing things that you don't hear about every day.
Yeah.
Great example.
Sure, go hang out in their garage. See what they're building.
They may get sick of the but why. But
yeah, right. But why?
There is that. Can you tell us a little bit about TE's point of view and what they're doing to really drive STEM?
Yeah, so TE, really, this year we've made it all about diversity and inclusion. Yeah. So we've set up some groups, we've set up some councils internally where we've gotten male and female involved to say, like, okay, how are we going to increase the women in the workforce? Yeah. Right now in engineering, only 1 of 7 engineers is a woman, right? And that sort of comes from history, like sort of those barriers that we're talking about. But those barriers are either broken down or breaking down, that's not an excuse anymore. So, so TE has these groups globally where we get together, we have workshops, we have groups, we have meetings. So really making an honest effort of bringing these women to the forefront. We have women in management here that you can certainly look up to as well. A lot of fantastic women engineers and scientists that I get to work with every day, anywhere from aerospace engineers to scientists to physicists to chemists to whatever you want. And they're all super smart and super personable and really go out of their way also with the mentoring children in the real world too.
Yeah, I think it's probably on a weekly basis I discover some of the new amazing things that are going on. So talking a little bit about that a little bit further, so what other external programs is TE involved in?
From the educational side, we support about 50 schools around the world, mostly in the locations that TE is located around the globe. But then also, there's probably a dozen or so university level organizations that we have relationships with, like Georgia Tech, University of Berkeley, or California at Berkeley, but we have a couple that are near and dear to me that I help work on too. So one being Discovery, which used to be Engineers Week for those growing up with Engineers Week. It's been rebranded, but it's called Discover E. And with the E standing for engineering, of course. But last year we were major sponsors of it. This past year we were sponsors of Girl Day. And we had one of our fellow engineers, Sarah Bola. Shout out to Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Who is an awesome mentor here at TE to other women engineers, but also she is one of the mentors on the first robotics, which I'll get to in a second. But she tirelessly spends 3 or 4 nights a week for 4 months of her life helping these high school kids build a robot, basically. So, but we have lots of programs in support of Discovery, and we do that. That's every March. And then we also we have a partnership with the University of Pennsylvania here in Philadelphia, and they have the Mac Institute there. So that's all about, that's a center for innovation and collaboration. And we do the collaborative innovation program with them, where we have their grad students working with our engineers on one of TE's real world problems. So we worked with them last fall semester on, we did a project on Internet of Things, and we did a project on wearables. So two key markets for TE, as you know, those two markets really expand globally. To see what these folks outside of TE thought about it, did the market research, see, you know, what this landscape looks like in 3 to 5 years, see who our competitors might be, see who our partners might be. So it's really taking a fresh look at that. So that relationship we have there with Wharton at Penn is fantastic to sort of get them involved. And moving forward, they've expanded the program to not just include engineers, but now they're going to include, I'm sorry, that was their MBA program. Now they're going to include engineers, people from the medical school as well. So it's going to be really expanding sort of those minds and that partnership too. So we're excited about that. And then the last one, which is most special to me, is First Robotics. So that is a fantastic program that gets, you know, tens of thousands of kids building these robots. Right after New Year's, they get their project and they have to have it all locked up and sandbagged by the end of February. So they have to program it to get it to do some crazy things, you know, throwing frisbees or throwing balls or stacking recycle bins, whatever the challenge is that year. And we've supported 50 teams last year. And had over 50 mentors. So we're trying to really grow that program within TE. And you don't just have to be an engineer to do that. Like anybody can do that. And like, because these kids need to fundraise, they need social media, they need to go solicit Congress about STEM programs. They need, you know, all these things that anybody could offer. Sometimes they just need, you know, sleep. But
I don't know that we can help them with that. But
they need a pizza, like whatever. So if you just go to their site, you can look up and you can join. I'm sure there's a local team within 10 miles of anybody on this call that you could go and join a team, and I'm happy to have you. But what a great bunch of kids. And that kind of goes back to what I think's really imperative for kids at an early age, is to get that exposure, to get that team environment. So you're not, you know, working alone. It's seeing how others have a common interest. And then it's also, you know, it's just that collaboration. It's like, you can't be good at everything, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. But, you know, there's that one thing that you're good at, and that, you know, the next kid's great at something else, and you all come together and you do something brilliant.
Great lessons in leadership and teamwork as well.
Absolutely,
I remember I was lucky enough a couple years back to go to the regional championships for First, and I've got to echo what Lauren said. That the enthusiasm is completely contagious when you're there.
It is. Look, I got goosebumps, like right now. Like it's such a great program.
The chanting and the team excitement and just working away, tools in hand, it's a great experience.
Yeah, and they're saying, like, they give around $20 million in scholarships every year. And they're saying now, if you want to even get into these highest level engineering skills, you have to have First Robotics on your application. And at least 4 years. Now, this is a program that starts at kindergarten, right? They start with the Legos. So they start them young, start them young. But it's contagious, like you said, and it's an amazing program that I encourage everybody to get involved in.
There was another one a couple years back that we were involved with, too, as part of Discovery. Sorry, lots of E's around here. With Discovery, and that was Future Cities.
Oh, yeah.
So another great program teaching kids how to work together to build the future of the city, or the city of the future.
So it's like Sim City. It's like on the computer, but it's like sort of taking it to the next level.
Everything from parking to waste removal and energy and how to build things if there's plenty of room and green space. Yeah, it's amazing. It's another great option.
There's so many cool things versus when we grew up. I just had a motorcycle. Oh, don't feel bad. It was good.
Well, that's what we had questions for you for today. Any last final thoughts about tomorrow's engineer and what we can do for them to prepare them?
Again, I think it's all start them early. You know, they have that curiosity inherently, so just feed that curiosity however you can, and be that role model, be that mentor to our future engineers, and you know, guidance too. I know everybody's going back to school right now. You know, finishing up high school. My nephew better finish up high school. But so they're finishing up school, they're starting college, what's that mean? I think it's getting that relevant experience, right? So whether that's on a project team, in your classroom, doing that after school project, or getting that summer internship. I was lucky enough to have a summer internship at NASA when I was in college, and I had a relevant experience on my resume, and just learned a lot from the people that were willing to teach me that summer too. So, those are the key things. And I mean, there are no boundaries, and don't let anybody tell you there's boundaries, because there are no boundaries for what you can do.
You have a kid nearby, help them make something.
Yes.
That's your weekend challenge.
Help them make something. Yeah. Buy them a MakerBot for Christmas. I have no stock in MakerBot. So.
We'll just put that disclaimer.
Yes, disclaimer.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was fun.
Yep. Take care.
Thanks.